What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Still on the mend. Probably sitting at about 90%, which is pretty good. You know, most days you're probably at 95% at best. The voice still not quite all the way back yet. This thing, it's been over a week now, and I am still trying to put this thing away. But what are you going to do except just keep on churning out content? Today, weekly sports card market update. The world famous. As you are all listening to this, I am probably walking through the card show in Canton, Ohio, that is today, 70 table show right there in North Canton, that I will be in attendance of. It starts at 9 a.m., I believe. So right as this video is dropping, I am walking through the doors, most likely at that show. Lots of things to talk about today, lots of news, lots of prices, pretty busy week this past week in the old hobby sphere. Right off the rip, I talked about this in yesterday's video. Go check it out if you want a little bit more information on it. COMC, yes, they are a sponsor of the channel. Yes, they sponsor this video. Yes, they have a shipping backlog. The slower speeded or the base level shipping home speeds are a little bit backlogged right now. They are running behind quite a bit, actually, but the faster services, if you need something immediate, you can get it. Those are running on time. The expedited, which can be pretty pricey, is on time. And then the mid-tier one, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, is running on time. That one's not that much more than the economy level shipping. So just like most things in life, if you want to cut to the front of the line, pay a little bit extra for it. It's like going to Disney World, folks. Got to buy the fast pass. I fully expect them to get caught back up. This is not the first time this has happened over there. It happened during the pandemic. It's happened other previous times. They're working on it. I reached out to them this week just to kind of check in. That's what is going on with COMC shipping delays. That being said, I just sent another package off to them. I don't believe inbound is delayed at all. I sent off another 2-week submission, taking advantage of fresh pulls and the 30% off baseball special for submissions. So I will get some of that top series 1 stuff uploaded onto the site in under 2 weeks for around like 35 cents a card, which I will take that all day long. It is better than that stuff taking up space on my desk. Once again, if you're kind of curious for the stuff that I send off to COMC to sell, go take a look at that video from yesterday. It's about 150 cards I sent in. It shows a perfect example of the stuff that I like to send in for that. So far, I think my sales on COMC, I'm getting very close to the $4,000 mark in sales on COMC. And most of that is stuff of me sending it in. I don't do a ton of, and I know a lot of people have a lot of success with this, buying on platform and selling on platform. It's just something I don't have a ton of time for, but I do enjoy the sending in, you know, the 200 count boxes and moving that stuff on the platform over there. Actually, as I'm recording this, I am in negotiations on what would be a very large purchase for a card on COMC. I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm trying to close the deal on something pretty big over there. We'll see if I can get it done. As of yet, the seller has been either straight declining with no counters, which, to be fair, I came in a little bit low on the initial offer. I get it. But I've made some subsequent offers that are a little bit higher that have also been either declined or now gone unanswered. So maybe I got on the seller's nerves, which is a risk that you run. But we'll see if we can close a big one to bring home. We'll see. We'll see. There will definitely be a video about it if I can close the deal on this bad boy. So if you're not using COMC, go check it out. Take advantage of their specials. Just be aware, if you are shipping stuff home, it might be a little bit slower than normal. Fantasy baseball. We got 4 spots left. Opened this league last week. 8 out of 12 are full. We got 4 left. So if you want to hop in. I will relink the information down below. If you've already been in one, get in a second one. $5, slow draft, best ball. All you do is draft, and then you don't have to monkey around with the day to day. let's get in. Oh, I should note, there'll be a small channel update, but I'll save it for the end of the video. So if you don't care about that sort of nonsense, you don't have to listen to it. But if you do, stick around to the end of the video. First up on weekly news stories, eBay. We talked about the eBay price increases earlier this week. Another thing that slipped into there, which I missed. A couple people commented, and then a couple people DM me, and they're like, "Hey, did you see this in the winter seller update?" And I had not. I missed it. I skimmed over and I missed it. This is interesting. This is almost more interesting than the price increases, to be honest. And it's this little line item right here. Now using Terapeak, you can access last 3 years, yada, yada. Oh, here we go. We've also refined product research results by excluding any invalid sales, such as unpaid or canceled items from the sold results. So that right there is pretty big. So now, at least in Terapeak, and I don't know if this will filter down to 130 point and the data tools like Market Movers and Card Ladder, because I'm not sure the way how they pull their data. But if an item is unpaid, it's going to get removed from Terapeak. And if the item was canceled, it will get removed from Terapeak. And it seems like there may be some other situations where that will fall under there. Sometimes, and I found this in the past with Terapeak, sometimes I've seen stuff not show up on there and I just assume that it wasn't paid for. But then sometimes I see stuff show up on there and it doesn't look like, it still looks like it's a little bit sus. So maybe they're just cleaning that up a little bit. That'll be pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if this will deter show bidding at all. But winning an auction and then having it show up as a comp, if it doesn't show up anymore, that you would think that would deter people from messing around with that. Now, I imagine it's still going to take a couple days because you have 4 days to pay for, most items still on eBay. So they have to wait for that time to process. So I don't know if it shows up for a couple days and then gets yanked, or if it won't show up in completed listings at all until it's actually paid for. That would be the best. We'll see. It would be really nice of eBay to clean that up. That's something a lot of people have been asking for. Hey, it shouldn't be on the completed listings page if it wasn't paid for. What are you doing? So we'll see. We shall see. Quick little one here. I could care less about this. Panini and Live Golf signed a deal to make trading cards. So good for them, I guess. Maybe put your autos in your boxes of Prizm basketball and don't worry about golf. But what the hell do I know? SGC. We need to talk about this one. I've gotten a couple different DMs with copies of emails, and there's been some chatter on the Blowout forums. It sounds like SGC's got themselves a little bit of a backlog. The old team down in Florida ran by Pete. Sounds like they're running a little bit behind schedule. Not like months behind or anything crazy like that, but I have seen some, reports of orders taking a full month to come back, or, they're at the 10 days that the order time was promised in, and the process hasn't even started yet. They're still waiting to be checked in, or just barely got checked in. So it seems like SGC has been running a little bit behind schedule. And, we've talked about it a lot over the last few weeks with PSA speed increasing. Now, it does appear PSA has slowed down. I recorded a PSA submission preview video that will be up sometime this week. I discussed my last order that I sent in like the last day of the month to take advantage of the special. They definitely got a little bottlenecked at the front end for checking in orders. That order got delivered to them at the beginning of February. It is still in grading. It took quite a while to get checked in, and then it took quite a while to get through research and ID, and now it has moved into the grading phase as of this week. So we'll see how the back half of that moves. It's definitely not going to come back as fast as my last order did. My last order was under 30 days. This one, I would have to get it back by the end of next week for it to beat that timeline. I just don't see that happening. I guess it could. I don't see it. It's still going to be pretty quick. And that's really what this comes back to circle back to the SGC side of things. Yes, SGC has fantastic customer service. Absolutely, they do. However, one of their big things that people like to use them for is the ultra fast turnaround times. If that, and I assume they will get back to the fast turnaround times. This is probably just a minor bump in the road, but it opens the door for, at the same time they're slowing down, PSA is speeding up. And that is an interesting dichotomy that is building there. You know, we're approaching the end of the month. This time next week, we'll be looking at some gem rate data, most likely, heading into the weekend. And we'll see how things go. You know, those numbers lag behind, so I don't expect much change there. And February is a shorter month, so it's going to be a little bit weird from that perspective. But SGC slowing down a little bit is something to monitor, because that is one of their biggest edges, is the fast turnaround time. So something to just kind of file away. This one, I'm not going to deep dive this. I'll probably do a video, separate video on this for the early part of this week. But if you're not aware, the internet is extremely mad about Nike and Fanatics' new MLB jerseys, and people are tying that into sports cards, and there are some interesting repercussions there, and some, you know, different takes that you can make in regards to, is this a sign of things to come, as these jerseys seem pretty cheap, not gonna lie. It's not great. They don't look great at all. They're pretty terrible. They're pretty bad. But we'll talk about it more in depth from a sports card angle. I would do it here, but it would just suck up too much of the airspace of this video, and it probably deserves its own 5 to 10 minutes to kind of talk about it. But yes, I am well aware of it. I've gotten a lot of comments and messages about this. We will discuss it, but we will do it in a little bit different format than this. But I just wanted to kind of acknowledge it here and make you all aware about it if you hadn't heard it. Prizm basketball. Been talking a lot about Prizm basketball this week. Been making some funny reels on Instagram about Prizm basketball. I did the video late this week about, you know, missing autos and what a disaster some of these box openings have been. And then Run Good Life just steps it up. He opened a hobby box that had no autos, just missing all the autos, and the hits were terrible in it. I don't know if Prizm Basketball 2023 is going to be the breaking point. Spoilers, it won't be. It should be, but it won't be. It's a mess of a product. And the rookie class is obviously headlined by Victor. Brandon Miller's pretty good. We're going to talk about some of the players here in a minute. But what a mess of a product at $900 a hobby box. Retail may end up being your best format if you could get it for actual retail prices. I honestly don't know if I'm going to rip any or not. We'll see. If I stumble into some, maybe I'll grab some off the shelf, but I don't have high hopes for it. If the hobby boxes are just this watered down, I can't imagine the retail is going to be that much better. I'm sure one of the formats will be slightly better than some of the others, but it is rough. The blood in the streets on Prizm basketball is absolutely wild. I may do a video this week. I thought about, this is almost like a video series, actually. So let me know in the comments below if this is something you'd like to see. Kind of like a Would You Rather video series, where maybe like once a week or every couple weeks, I pick a couple cards and just kind of compare similarly priced things to each other, of a little game of would you rather spend, you know, $2,000 on this or $2,000 on that, or $1,000 on this or $1,000 on that, or what, you know, a Prizm case cost you 10 grand. You know, here's what you could get instead of a case of Prizm. You know, some sort of video like that. I haven't put the full pieces together, but if you're interested in something like that, let me know. Yeah, Prizm is a disaster, as Run Good Life says in that thumbnail. The 101 Shimmer, this was pulled the day before the product went live over in Asia. This is the first off the line 1 of 1. A lot of people seem to be confusing this, saying that the 101 was out of the product and could no longer be pulled. Yes, out of first off the line, sure, but This is Panini. There's like 17 other 101s in the product. So don't sweat. You'll still be able to find another Victor 1 of 1. This is just the Black Shimmer 1 of 1. Should have mentioned this at the top. Later this week, I will be hanging out with the Amish, Shipshewana, Indiana. B Sports Card Show this week. Just putting that out there as a reminder. Friday night trade night, Saturday show. I will be in attendance. The hotel is booked. There are no weather issues. Looks like it's going to be 50 to 60 degrees or around 50 degrees. If you remember, this March show last year was the one with the absolutely epic blizzard. I mean, it was nasty. Some of the worst weather I've ever driven in for a good 30-mile stretch of rural Indiana roads. It was not fun times. I probably lost a couple years off my life on that drive due to stress. Steve Splenda, famous YouTube guest on live streams and commenter, was with me at that show. We drove together, not to the show, but from the hotel to the trade night. And it was a mile down the road, and that was an adventure. Just an absolute crazy weather the last time that show went on in March. And that was the one also where the power went out at trade night, and everyone just kept going like nothing happened and just busted their flashlights out. Fun times all around. Looking forward to get back out there with much, much better weather this time around. Let's transition into the market movers. Let's look at some charts and graphs. Link in the description down below. If you want to dive into your own version of charts and graphs, you can check out Market Movers with a free trial and 20% off for life if you use the coupon code that I have down there. If you don't care, awesome. If you care, awesome. If you're not sure, go check it out and see if it works for you. If not, cancel it. First up, football. Football. This is over the last 60 days. I was kind of curious. Hey, what's been going on with off-season price movements? And on quarterbacks anyway, not all the quarterbacks, but some of the quarterbacks, spoilers, you have missed your window. Let's run down some of these. Joe Burrow, PSA 10 silver, up 75% in the last 60 days. Now, I will say that last sale at 2.5, since then, some buy it nows have slipped onto the old eBay at like 23, 24-ish. So that 2,500 comp, it's actually probably a little bit less than that now. I don't know if someone spiked one and it jumped the price and then a couple people undercut it to try to move ones. So maybe it's realistically still more around a 2K card or 2.2. But there's definitely like a 2. When I looked at time of recording, there was like a 2350 that was sitting there on bin that it said newly listed on it. So someone must have posted it after this last one sold. But regardless, a pretty hefty increase, even if you say that that was a 60% increase on Burrow Silvers. Still a nice little bump up in prices on him over the last 2 months. Kyler Murray, Pump and Dump Steve's favorite player in the world, up 60%. A lot of that on the hopes and dreams of Marvin Harrison, or maybe Malik Neighbors, or one of the other big wide receivers going to Arizona, or maybe him even getting flipped to another team. Same with Justin Fields, up 45%. NFL free agency is about to get underway. There's a chance maybe we get a Justin Fields trade here in the near future, maybe to the Falcons. It could go into the draft. We will see. But his stuff is climbing up on the anticipation of potentially moving teams. Herbert Silver. This is in a PSA 9. There hasn't been a lot of transactions in PSA 10, but PSA 9, there's been 23 sales in the last 60 days. That card is up 40%. It was $200. Now it's just under $300. Trevor Lawrence, same thing. Up 33%. Also in a PSA 9. There has only been like one sale in a PSA 10, but up 30-some%. Was about $85. Now is sitting at about $115. And then CJ Stroud Silvers, just kind of more of a check-in here. They're down 47%. I don't care about that. That is 100% natural. That's still catching like his first silver sale out of the books. They are obviously going to price correct because a bunch more are coming back from PSA. that is sitting at just over $1,000. I actually thought it would be a little bit higher, but it's already down to 1,000. Obviously, he got knocked out of the playoffs as part of that, and those just like inventory coming to market is kind of all playing into that. So I'm almost kind of curious if that card ends up overcorrecting a little bit. One thing I was curious about on the Stroud, I pulled up GemRate Universal Pop Report. If you are not using this, I don't know what you're doing with yourself. It's free. Gemrate.com, and then go to Universal Search, and you could fire a card in. So I put in 2023 Prizm Silver, CJ Stroud, and this shows you all the information across all the grading companies for this card. What I was curious about was this right here, the GemRate percentage. So it's coming in at about 42%. There's 144 PSA 10s at the moment, 182 PSA 9s, and a handful of PSA 8s. The other thing that this shows, you can look at the grading numbers all that you want, the dominance of PSA on higher end ultra modern. Yes, SGC does really well in the monthly numbers on sports, but I think a lot of that is lower end stuff. For no other reason, just look at this CJ Stroud example. They have a 341 Stroud Silvers already graded. BGS has 11, SGC has 19. Ouch. When you divide the pie up that way, here's a little nice, and look at that, GemRate does for us. The dominance of PSA in this over the other two grading companies on let's just call it mid-tier and higher up cards is absolutely wild. But 42% GemRate on that. Something I was curious about, I just picked this at random. I was like, what's Joe Burrow's, just for the hell of it? His is only 20%. I did not realize the Joe Burrow Silver Prizm GemRate was that low. A 20% GemRate. 251 PSA 10s, 775 PSA 9s. And that's kind of across the board. PSA has a 20% GemRate on 1,200 cards. Beckett has a 14% GemRate, and they tend to, with the subgrades, you can kind of cheat some things. SGC has a 10% GemRate, and CGC has a 10% GemRate, but that's literally one card out of 10. And once again, PSA shows their dominance here on ultra modern mid-tier stuff. 1,200 total silvers have been graded with PSA, 72 with Beckett, 72 with SGC, and 10 with CGC. And there's your little chart down below there, and you can see the full number breakdown. But I was very interested to see only a 20% GemRate. The other thing that'll be interesting to kind of keep an eye on here is the population count as it grows. We're already at 144 PSA 10s on the CJ Stroud. There's only 251 Joe Burrows, and that is a card that came out 4 years ago. Wow, 3 years ago. So just some interesting stuff to keep an eye on. And once again, GemRate Universal Search cannot beat it if you're researching cards. Great information on there. Switch over to basketball. As we like to do when new product releases, like to kind of look at who is selling for where, kind of the tiering of the individual players. These are silver Prizms. Obviously, we have Victor in a tier all by himself, sitting at $880. Now, Prizm has kind of been out for a hot minute because we had the weird retail release thing. I get it. But so these numbers are a little more settled than normal. Once again, I don't pay too close attention at this point in time to the numbers of what they are selling for. I am paying more attention to like the grouping. So you have Victor in a tier by himself. We have Brandon Miller, who, if you haven't been paying attention to the Charlotte Hornets, and trust me, I don't blame you if you haven't been, Brandon Miller has been playing great since basically the start of 2024. The last month or so, he's been playing out of his mind. His Silver Prizm in a tier by itself was sitting at 150. Then we kind of drop down to the next tier, which has a small group of players in it. We have Pods out there for the Warriors. We have Scoot, Gigi Jackson, who has really come on strong with the Grizzlies, all sitting in that $60 to $70 tier. Then we kind of drop down to this $40 tier where we have Hami Hakas for the Heat, Keontae George for the Jazz, and then Cam Whitmore kind of falling in between there in the $35 tier. And then it kind of starts dropping down with Amon Thompson, Derek Lively, and Asor Thompson, Anthony Black, Jordan Hawkins, Mr. Grady Dick, Cason Wallace, who's been a pretty, I don't want to say trendy because he's not selling for a ton, but a lot of people seem to like him quite a bit. And then it kind of goes down from there. But that's kind of your tiering of the players. The thing I did find interesting over the last couple days, when I recorded the Prizm video, which I think came out on Thursday or Friday, I recorded it Wednesday or Thursday. The Prizm box prices were $925 a box, $900 to $925 a box for Prizm Hobby. Those are now down to the low eights. We're seeing 840, another 840, 860, 850 on some of these. So this was on the 23rd. So they are, once again, you just go back 2 days, they were well over 900. It's going to be interesting to kind of see with all this negative press on Prizm basketball, does it affect the secondary box price market at all once we get through this initial hype phase? It's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. But we're already down almost $100 a box, less than a couple days after release. So just kind of something to keep our eyes peeled for. The other thing I was curious about with Prizm basketball, I just took all the filters off and I just put on Prizm basketball raw 2023 and sorted by highest sold over the last 14 days. Look now, a single card covering the price of your box is not that common to hit. It's something you could pull off, sure, especially after grading, but before grading just raw, it could be a little bit tricky. But on a $900 box for regular hobby or a $2,000 box for first off the line, it's near impossible. So these are the highest selling cards so far from Prizm over the last 2 weeks. We have a Wemby Snakeskin SSP sold for $10K. Obviously, if you hit a gold, a 101, something crazy like that, you're golden. A Blue Ice to 125 sold for $4K. A Luck of the Lottery Mojo, which is an insert, sold for 2.7. Blue Seismic for 2.6. Green Shimmer GG Jackson out of 5. That would be a monster pull. Barely covered the price of the box at 1.3. And that's out of first off the line. That actually did not cover the price of the box when you factor in first off the line pricing. Red Seismic, 1.2. There's the Victor. That's Wemby. Wemby Silver, 888. And right now, we're already well under box prices. A Wemby Hyper goes for 600. A GG Jackson Green Pulsar, 520. Amon Thompson Red to 299, 500. Blue Seismic Brandon Miller. It's a pretty big card. Nice looking. Color match. Hashtag color match. 450. You can see how quick we drop below the price of the box. Now, obviously, this is before grading and everything, but just kind of gives you an idea how out of whack these box prices really are. Last but not least, let's talk a little baseball, wrap this puppy up. Let me zoom in a little bit on this. This chart ended up coming out a little bit smaller. I was just curious. This is going back 90 days. Just kind of curious for some price movements on guys that we don't talk about a ton, but are very, very good players. Jackson Holiday and Jackson Churio and Ellie De La Cruz and Witt and J-Rod. All those guys get the ink and the screen time. I was curious to see how other players' prices were moving leading up into the season. So, PSA 10, Vlad Guerrero Jr. Remember him? Everyone used to love him. He has the early headlines for best shape of his life on lockdown. PSA 10 first Bowman up 40% over the last 90 days. Matt Olson, Bowman Chrome prospect, PSA 10 auto. These don't come up very often. They are pretty low population. Up 37% over the last 90 days and seems criminally underpriced. I get it. He's a little bit older. But $250 for his PSA 10 Prizm or PSA first Bowman. Dude's an absolute monster. I love drafting him in fantasy baseball. Fernando Tatis, Steroid Boy, up 16%. That's a BGS 9.5, I should note on that. There hadn't been a lot of PSA 10 sales. Bryce Harper, Bowman Chrome Prospect Auto, BGS 9.5, up 5%. So basically flat at around $750. I owned that card at one point in time in my life. Freddie Freeman, only one of these is sold, BGS 9.5, 2009 Bowman Chrome Prospect, $600. Once again, that price, compare that price to what a BGS 9.5 Jackson Holiday or Churio Auto goes for, and it's absolutely wild given the numbers that Freddie Freeman has put up. And then another one, I do own one of these actually, Kyle Tucker. Fantastic player, had a really nice year last year, going high in fantasy drafts this year. Poised to have another big year. Yes, he has a little Astros stain on him. Down slightly, basically flat. $160 for his BGS 9.5. If you told me that Jackson Holiday or Jackson Churio rather, we're going to have Kyle Tucker like numbers, people probably be like, oh yeah, sign me up for that. That would be awesome. Look at what Kyle Tucker's cards sell for. Oops. Just something to file away in the back of your minds. That is all I got for you boys and girls. If you haven't and you want to dive into Fantasy Baseball League, don't forget to do that. Small channel update. If you don't care, go ahead and get out of here. If you do care, you want to hang around for a minute, I will give you a little preview on a small channel update. I've actually been doing this for about a week now, but I haven't mentioned this at all. This may be the only time that I mention it. I don't usually do this very often. Yes, I have a join button down at the bottom for channel memberships. It's always been there. In the past, it was always basically just a tip jar. If you wanted to basically support the channel and say, hey, I enjoy what you're doing, here's an extra couple bucks a month, great. I've changed that around now. I had a few people took advantage of that for a long time, and I appreciate them deeply for the ones that did it. Currently, there was no one signed up for it, so I figured this would be a good time to shift some things around. The base level tip jar thing is still there. I think it's set at like $5 a month. There's now a $10 tier. On the $10 tier, what I have done, because I don't like gatekeeping content, if you are a $10 channel member, you will get access to videos as soon as they are uploaded. So, what does that mean? Breaking news stuff, I put up immediately. As soon as it's recorded, it immediately goes live. So nothing's going to change with that. Any of the other weekly stuff or the daily stuff, it basically means you're probably at worst going to get it the night before. I almost always record the night before. For example, this video that you just watched, it's 3:30 on Saturday afternoon. So you would probably get access to the weekly sports card market update sometime on Saturday afternoon or evening. Sometimes I'd record early. Sometimes I record late. Sometimes I'm ahead. There's a PSA video that I recorded 2 days ago that's probably not going to go live until mid to late next week. That's not always the case. It's going to vary on what you get access to. But if you want to, and the reason why I did this is I get questions on, hey, is there a way to support the channel? I really like what you do. Love to throw you a little bit of love. This is the easiest way to do it. If you become a channel member, you'll get access to the videos early. If you don't want to become a channel member, nothing is going to change. I'm sure people will get mad about this because it's the internet. People get pissed when people air quote charge for content. Nothing is changing. The only thing is if you're a channel member, you will get access to videos early. That's it. Simple as that. Nothing else. If you want to do it, great. Thank you very much. If you don't want to do it, perfectly fine. Great. We will continue on business as usual. All I got, I figured it was a non-invasive way if you wanted to support the channel to help out. All I got for you boys and girls. Catch you on the next one. Peace.